It's time now for the Sports Objective Podcast. No talking heads, just guys who love sports. Here's Dave Richmond.
Welcome into the Sports Objective Podcast, our Pirate preview for Navy. It's Saturday at 3:30 in Annapolis. With us right now, ladies and gentlemen, he is our midshipman. I don't think he was in the Navy, but he should have been. Kyle from LaGrange Barber. How are you, man?
Let go, my ego.
Kyle's like, you sunk my battleship. Bubba Rosenbaum, help me out. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Hope you guys are. And Kyle talks like a sailor sometimes. Is that right?
Yeah.
Indeed. I use lots of nautical terms.
That's right. I was going to go as far as village people in the Navy, but I didn't. I just couldn't go that far tonight. I'll spare everybody some village people. But anyway, welcome into the show. We've got a great show for Kyle from LaGrange, and that's the adjective I'll use right now. But we've got two great guests, one from the Pirates perspective and one from the Navy perspective.
Yeah, so from the Navy perspective, we'll be catching up with the play-by-play voice of the Midshipmen, Pete Medhurst. Pete does an excellent job. He also does some, in addition to Navy football, Washington Nationals baseball games. I know he probably did at least 15 of those this year, and they were right there. They're a little bit out of first now, but the Braves have lengthened their lead, extended their lead. But the Nationals, of course, have been very solid in recent seasons. And then we'll also catch up with Eric Graham, former Pirate offensive lineman from 2002 to 2006. Played for three different head coaches, but was part of Coach Holtz's tenure as the program turned around. And he had the opportunity to play against Navy, the first ever matchup between the Pirates and Midshipmen. So Eric does an excellent job now in 94-3 the game, and we look forward to catching up with him.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And speaking of
trivia
fun.
Question, guys. Trivia question. First game against Navy in 2006 was broadcast on what network?
I don't know. I'm lucky that we played them.
Bubba, can you give me this answer to this delightful trivia question?
I can take a guess, but that's what back then I was at the game, so that's not one that really sticks out. But
I'll guess, but I don't know.
My guess would be I think it was called something else back then, but what the equivalent of CBS Sports Network?
Yes, but I need what it was called back then before it was sold.
Yeah, that's what.
People out there right now are either saying who cares or they're screaming the answer.
I know. At one point before it was the CBS Sports Network, it was CBS College Sports, but I'm guessing you're saying even prior to that.
Correct. It was called CSTV.
Yeah. CSTV.
I did remember. Yeah. Now that you said that, oh my God, I do. I knew it was. The first answer that came to mind was CBS Sports Network, and I knew that wasn't right. I knew it was before that, but I couldn't think of the name. So yeah, I do remember the CSTV. Didn't know it was on back that far, but that makes sense.
For fact, we played as here's another fun trivia question for you. We played in the first ever Saturday FBS college football game on CSTV. East Carolina and Duke was the first. The prior season they had FCS football only. It launched in 2004. And then East Carolina Duke was the first FBS football game.
The 2005?
Yep. East Carolina Duke.
Okay.
So there you go. There's some useless trivia for you.
Skip's first game then as a Pirate head coach.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. That's I didn't know that, but now I'm sure my life will change dramatically now that I know that.
Well, this is a podcast. It's pretty much about useless information.
Well, that's a nice way to segue into a round table we try to have. Hey, by the way, guys, I saw this morning in Thursday's paper that the overall this is something for Dr. Breen will be happy about. The freshman enrollment is the best. It's the third best ever. The overall enrollment for the school is down a little bit, but that's good news for the Pirates and Chancellor Dan and everybody there. We need to keep supporting them. And I tell you, all it takes, when I read that article today, and I was thinking about both of you, I was like, why can't we go ahead and record and talk about it, but we're doing it now. I was thinking about the best way to get enrollment up is to win football games.
Yeah, no, well, absolutely. I mean, I'd love to know what contributed to the increase in freshman enrollment. But that's good that it is on the way back up.
I want to say it was 4,600, a little over 4,600 freshmen now.
Clearly, something Staten did, obviously, that positioned us to have that huge freshman enrollment. But anyway,
who?
That's good. Definitely a good thing. Freshman enrollment's up, and that only bodes well because we can continue that trend. Then overall enrollment will go up.
Yeah, as they always say, the athletics department, especially football, is the front porch to the university. So that's what a couple of things come to mind. I mean, I think about the success that we had there in the early '90s with the Peach Bowl, and I know it had that effect. And then also Appalachian, their win over Michigan. I'm trying to remember their applications went up in an insane percentage.
No question about it. I mean, you were talking about the Peach Bowl. It's funny because there's a lot of not a lot, but there's some professors that loathe sports. Well, I remember the Peach Bowl brought in so much money that there was new computers and there's different things that academically it helped pay for. So, you know, to me, athletics and academics are hand in hand.
Yeah, I think that those professors that loathe athletics are ill-guided.
No question about it. Let's move on to, I just want to mention that if you guys haven't had a chance, folks, you can go, I'm sure, to reflector.com, the Greenville Daily Reflector, and check that out. Let's talk about, Bubba, I know you have it pulled up on your laptop. It came out today from John Gilbert, and I know everybody thinks that we're getting paid by him. We're not, and Ryan Robinson. But John Gilbert, another great from the helm today.
Yeah, that's what from the helm. Fall sports underway, and so he was talking about opening weekend. In terms of the home opener and how everything on the whole went well with Gardner-Webb, but he also referenced that they're well aware of a lot of the things that need improvement, and he thanked Pirate Nation for submitting those suggestions, comments, complaints, ideas, and stories from the Gardner-Webb game. And so he talks about some of the things that will be changing, and one of the biggest things that he was concerned with and definitely needed improvement was the concession stands and customer service. He said that the customer service and the wait at the concessions was simply unacceptable, and that would be improved going forward with William and Mary and beyond.
Good.
And I think one of the things, and I'll say this, and I'm not being disrespectful when I say this, but I think one of the problems we've had is that we're doing a good thing by giving charities the money. So don't get me wrong when I say this, but at the same time, those folks are volunteers, and the amount of people that are there, I don't think we have enough when it's all about supply and demand. We have a lot of demand and not enough supply, meaning I feel like we need more concession stands. And if we're worried about wait time, they're only going to be able to do the best they can because they don't do that every single day. So I'm not trying to be mean when I say it, but a lot of times I think it's because they may come to, if it's a charity, like a charitable organization, they may come 1 or 2 games a year. It's not like somebody that's serving people every single day or every week.
No, that's certainly a fair point. John Gilbert went on to say in this letter, he was talking about the Olympic sports and how soccer, they had the home game tonight. Unfortunately, we fell 2-1 to Old Dominion. And Old Dominion was undefeated coming in. And then talked about volleyball. Julie Torbett, and of course we had her on the podcast here recently. They're off to a 5-1 start, and big win on the road at Reynolds Coliseum at NC State the other night. Lost the first 2 sets, 25-19, but then bounced back and won 3 in a row to get a big road win over an ACC opponent. And then also he referenced the start for CC Buford, who we hope to have on the show here soon. She and the women's golf team performed very well up at the Minnesota Invitational. They finished in second place out of 15 or 16 teams, and with 3 shots behind tournament champion Kentucky. And then he also mentioned men's and women's basketball tickets season tickets, that is, being on sale, and how they hope to have the schedule and everything released this week in terms of the American Conference schedule. And then the last thing he said was just he was just talking about Coach Houston and what a challenging week it was for him with his father's passing, and having the opportunity to attend those services up in Franklin, North Carolina, and having the chance to meet Coach Houston's family. And he can certainly see how Coach Houston is the tremendous man he is after having the chance to meet his mom and siblings.
And I mentioned about Coach Houston, that letter he put out on acpirates.com. I know Kyle posted on our Facebook page. It just shows what a classy guy is. He gets it. He knows. I think that's why he took the job, is because of the folks in Pirate Nation, the big hearts that we have. And, he could go to different places. There might be a few people to reach out to him, but there is one of the good things about social media is when something like that happens, you get a chance to reach out to the coach, where more as most of the time in the past you wouldn't have, and there would be a little bit of a response, maybe some cards or whatever. Pirate Nation showed up huge once again. I got to give a shout out to my fellow brothers and sisters in Pirate Nation about rallying behind the coach, and his response was just excellent, and why I'm proud to be a Pirate, why I'm proud to have all three of us wanted him as a coach in 2018, and we got our wish.
Yeah, he definitely is endearing himself to Pirate Nation and being very genuine with it. I mean, he seemed to be truly grateful for the support Pirate Nation showed him during that tough time of losing his dad, and you obviously want him to be successful because he's our head coach, but Mike Houston's the type of guy you just would like to be successful even if he wasn't our head coach.
And that's the way we felt exactly when, I know, Kyle, you and I talked about we were fans of him going all the way back to Lenore Ryan.
Yeah.
Lenore Ryan, he did very well, finished second, unfortunately losing in the Division II championship. I think it was 2012. That's when I started following Mike Houston. And I'll be honest, I didn't know Mike Houston before Lenore Ryan, but he was on David Glenn. I think, Kyle, you heard him on there too.
Yeah, it was somewhere. I had trouble remembering if it was David Glenn or there. In my mind, you know what? David Glenn makes a lot more sense, Dave, because it's been a North Carolina show. But in my mind, when I think back, there used to be a show that came on Sirius XM. It used to come on before the guy we just had on our show.
Tim Brando?
Yeah, before Brando's show, there used to be a show that came on in the morning. There was, I can't think of the name of it. It was before Full Ride or any of that stuff. And it seems like maybe I heard Mike Houston up there, but David Glenn kind of makes more sense.
He also was on, as we had one of our good friends, Jeff Charles, had him on from the booth. Had him on his show when that week of I think that championship game as well.
Yeah.
So some people may have heard him on, our good friend from the booth. With Jeff Charles or David Glenn, they're both friends of the podcast and friends of ours, and so either way, I know that's where I remember him from. Certainly, I remember vividly David Glenn, and I remember. I know we listen to at least the archive version from the booth with Jeff Charles every week, and that sounded. I remember when he was talking about that on our show recently for last week with a preview. But anyway, Coach Houston is a tremendous asset to not only the football program, but I think the university, and I look forward to seeing what the future holds for us. We have a really big game, folks. By the way, I want to mention, Bubba, before we dive into the preview, there's a big invitational this week for the Pirates for Kyle's favorite sport, volleyball. Go out and support Coach Torbett. She's done a fantastic job rebuilding the program, and like you said, Bubba, 5-1 start. This weekend, the games are all the you don't have to pay any admission now for, as we've mentioned several times on the podcast, for women's soccer or volleyball. So it's free. Let's get as many people as we can into Williams Arena, Benji's Coliseum. I don't know the schedule, Bubba. You do probably. But
I got it for you. It's the Pirate Invitational, and on Friday night. So tomorrow night at 7 p.m. We'll be taking on George Washington out of the Atlantic 10. And then on Saturday we'll be taking on Norfolk State as well as USC Upstate. And those matches are at 1 and 7. So 3 matches this weekend in the Pirate Invitational for Julie Torbett and company.
Looking forward to that, and good luck to our Lady Pirates. And what a difference, man. Do you guys remember, and I promise we'll move on to football, do you guys remember when, I remember Clip Brock told, but there was a point where back in the days right before she came where we were praying for them just to win a game. Do you remember that back about 7 years ago, 8 years ago now?
Yep, right before she came, we won 6 matches in 3 years, and here we are, I guess year 7 or so of her tenure, and we've won 5 of our first 6. So
huge difference. Let's talk about football. Speaking of rebuilding and certainly turning the corner, I know we've got the 2 great guests, but let's talk a little bit before we pitch it to our first guest. I really feel good about this weekend. I can promise you that even I feel like we can win this game. If we don't, I feel like the Pirates are going to play really hard, and I think it's going to be a lot closer than what some people expect. Do you guys know the line? I just thought about it. I didn't even look.
It's moved a lot. It opened at 9, fell to 6. It's back up to 7.5 now. 7.5 points favorite for Navy. Stanford Steve picked that as one of his, I don't know what he calls it, but it's one of his locks of the week for Navy to cover.
So a touchdown?
A touchdown and a half, 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I go back and forth on this, on if I think we have a chance versus, let me rephrase that. Of course we have a chance. But do I think we have a real chance? Like, do I think we're going to win versus I hope we're just, play a good game? I go back and forth. I look at Navy from last year, and if you just look at their record and see them at 3-10, you think, But if you really look at their scores, they were a decent football team last year that just didn't close it out in a lot of games. They lost a lot of close ball games. And switched defensive coordinators, which we'll talk about a lot with Pete Medhurst, and brought up the defense coordinator from Kennesaw State, and he's running an aggressive defense. And it'll be interesting to see what we do. I just – if we can win that game, it will be, to me, a program-building win. If you can go on the road and beat Navy in your 3rd game as head coach at East Carolina, that's huge, man. And I tell you what, I don't know if they're flying back into Greenville or Kinston these days, but if we beat Navy, we need to have some folks at the airport.
Yeah, it's big because you look at the schedule. You have NC State. I told you guys I felt like we'd be 3-2 and set between the first 5 games. We take August 31st. That might as well as be September. If you look at that, I said we'd lose State, and I felt like State in the Navy games were the 2 that I worried about the most. The other, I felt like we could be 3-2. Somehow, if you can beat Navy, you got William and Mary. You feel like you can win there. You got ODU, and I tell you what, I'm not so sure. It'll be interesting to see on that Thursday night game. Oh my God, that place! If you're 4-1, place will be rocking for a team that we need to beat. Like the Temple game is one on October 3rd that really, to me, is a potential where, we were talking about the difference in making a bowl and not making a bowl. We really need that game. We need every one of them. I'm not trying to say that.
Look, if we beat Navy and then take care of business against William and Mary and Old Dominion, we're ahead of the game. Are you kidding me?
Right.
We'd be 4-1. So no, we'd be way ahead of the game. But first things first, Navy's up. But you said, talking about being 4-1, we could be 1-4.
Right.
We could lose to Navy. We could lose to William and Mary. We could lose to ODU.
We're getting vintage Kyle from the
after the last few years. Do what?
I was joking. I agree with you. I said that earlier to a coworker late morning today. He was talking, and he was happy to hear my optimism about Navy. I said, look, we've still got to play the game. We could easily be 1-4. We got 1 win, but we could lose the next few games. So I said that earlier to him. But I was just joking with you that days on the fifth quarter of Pirate with right after the game on Pirate Radio. I think some people are disappointed now that you're not the Kyle from LaGrange they fell in love with over the last few years.
Well, if I have something to yell about and you scream about, or yell about and scream about it, but I don't do it for show. I do it for purpose, and it's all measured, and there's a point to it. There's nothing to be angry about right now, and if, and me saying we can be 1-4 isn't being negative; it's being realistic.
No, I know that. I was just
so. I mean, realistically, do I think we're going to beat Navy? No. Realistically, do I think we're going to beat William and Mary? Absolutely. But hell, we could beat Navy and lose to William and Mary.
Yeah.
I mean,
crazier things have happened.
Remember last year we lost to A&T and beat North Carolina. So.
No. We don't have. We finally beat an FCS opponent last week.
Yeah, barely. They're barely FCS. I mean, now that game's over with, man, that was about in terms of their offense, man, that was one of the least talented football teams. That has to be. Bubba, can you think of a less talented football team you've ever seen at Daddy Fickman?
No, it's got to be right there. I mean, like you said, as much as no, I think even though we beat Western Carolina by more, that's what it was, 52-7, right? So
yeah,
I mean that Western Carolina team was better than this Gardner-Webb team, no doubt about it. Because they had a pretty solid quarterback, and then they had some decent skill pieces around him. So yeah, even though the margin was worse, that was definitely a better opponent than Gardner-Webb was.
I think Gardner-Webb. Well, I don't know what they were trying to do on offense. What they were trying to run didn't make a lot of sense to me. But anyway, who cares? It's over with.
And I think you're seeing I'll tell you this. I think you're seeing baby steps. So I want to get ahead of myself here, but I think you're seeing the defense. I've been hard on the defense over the last few years, but I think the defense is starting to improve, and that's what I'm curious to see is how well this defense of ours will handle the triple option of Navy. I'm concerned about. It's a concern, and we have, as we'll talk about, we don't have a good reputation with Navy. We've only won 1 out of 6, 5-1. Navy leads the series, but if somehow, some way, they can. Another thing too is I want to get your guys' opinion on this. We've got to find a way. When we've got the talent of a Darius Penix and the different running backs we have, we've got to utilize and find some way. If we could have the running game established, when we talk about Navy controlling the clock, how about that we could, sometimes the best way to beat a team is beat them at their own game, right? I mean, the best defense is good offense by
right. Yeah, if you can establish,
we'll
talk about that here in a little bit with Eric. But yeah, if you establish a running game and you can control the ball and keep their offense off the field, that's going to give your defense a chance to rest. But why don't we talk about the game with a guy who knows even more than we do about Navy football with Pete Medhurst.
Well, as we do our Pirate preview, a big week as the Pirates are going to Annapolis to take on the Navy Midshipmen. And I know, Bubba, we got one of our favorites back on the line with us.
Absolutely. The play-by-play voice, the Navy Midshipmen, Pete Medhurst. Pete, welcome into the show.
Great to be back with you guys, and certainly great to see the Pirates back on our schedule, that's for sure.
No doubt about it. I was just talking to you, Pete, right before we went on that, hey, I can't be there, but there's I know you just said there's a lot of Pirate fans that usually make the trip, if you will, to Annapolis.
Oh, yeah. I mean, East Carolina folks travel well. I was kind of disappointed when the rotation changed that we weren't coming down there, though, because without question, East Carolina and Memphis by far are the two best food press boxes in the entire American Conference. And quite frankly, all the places that we've ever been, I would put ECU and Memphis up with anybody that we've played at in college football in terms of press box food. So I was kind of hoping we'd play back at you guys in this rotation, and then unfortunately we drew the home game. So it'll be nice to have our own home cooking and sleep in our own bed, but I'm going to miss the East Carolina press food this year, that's for sure.
Pete, Coach Ken also is disappointed you're not playing in Greenville based on history.
Well, the last couple times we've been down there, we have put up some interesting numbers. But here's what I want to know: when Ruff got let go, what did they do with the life-size thing of Ruff and hanging in the Walmart right across from where we stay at the hotel? Because
I don't know, but I'd like to find it and send it to Jeff Comfort.
Omar Nelson and Omar Nelson, who used to do the games with me, who's now our recruiting coordinator here at Navy, we wanted that. We wanted the life-size cutout of Ruff that was hanging from the Walmart, man. That was one of our favorite things about coming down there. I was like, man, my man's got the town on hand here.
Well, we could have put that life-size cutout of Ruff on the sidelines, and he would have done a better job than Scotty Montgomery the last couple of years. But you don't have to comment on that.
Well, but you know what though, and it's funny. Scotty's up here now at the University of Maryland, and I look, and they've obviously put up some obscene numbers first two games. But you know what though, guys, we see it all the time in sports. Some guys are they're great assistant coaches. Some guys are great coordinators. When they make that jump to the head coaching position, sometimes it just eludes them, and for whatever reason, it eluded Scotty, and not that. I mean, certainly the cupboard wasn't bare, when Ruff got let go and they hired Scotty. But some guys, when they get in that head coaching position, for whatever reason, the staff that they hire, the philosophy that they try to change to, sometimes things just don't work. And I think Scotty Montgomery may be one of those guys where he's a great assistant coach, and I'm sure he will get another opportunity. And maybe the things that he learned from, because you could say the same thing about the guy he's working for right now, and Mike Loxley. Obviously, yeah. Mike, things didn't go well for Mike at New Mexico, but the guy can recruit the DMV like nobody else. And the New Mexico job didn't fit Mike's personality. And Mike's going to do great things at Maryland. And Scotty, I think, is going to benefit from that. Their offense has been ridiculous the first two games of the season. And I think just like a lot of coaches, some guys who don't have necessarily successful tenures the first time around, they learn from the things that snake bit them that first time, and then they end up usually having a better experience the second time around. And I think that'll happen for Scotty because the guy's too good of a football coach. You don't work for David Cutcliffe and have the success. You don't work with Mike Loxley and have the kind of success they are and don't pick some things up. And I think it'll work out for him eventually somewhere in the end. He'll get another shot, and I guarantee you he'll do a lot better.
He's a good play caller. And I think if he becomes a head coach again, the NFL's the right place for him. His problem at East Carolina is he didn't know how to run practice. He didn't know how to develop talent. He never went good on good and didn't even like to do thud at practice. That was the problem, and that's coming from a former assistant coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's the biggest challenge for any new head coach is how do you develop your practice plan? And we were talking about this. Joe Miller, who does the games with me, he and I have our own college football podcast. It's College Football. And we talk about the one thing that Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, the one thing that nobody ever talks about with those clubs is how they rarely miss on the 5-star or 4-star recruit because their player development is so darn good. The player development at every one of those places is so darn good. A team consistently wins because the player development every day. When that senior graduates, there's somebody waiting to take over who's ready to take over at a high level. And I don't think we give, guys like Dabo and Nick Saban their just due. I mean, you all know Lincoln Riley. Look at what he did as an offensive coordinator there. I know what he's doing offensively at Oklahoma is no surprise to you guys. And, I don't think we give those guys enough credit for their player development. Sure, we see plenty of 5-stars fail in college football. We see 5-stars fail in college basketball. But the people who have great player development, they don't fail. And that's why those clubs right now are staying on top of college football the way they are.
Pete, I always say if you don't develop a player, you know what a 5-star high school senior is if he doesn't get developed when he's in college by the time his senior year gets there in college? A 5-star high school senior.
Yeah, that's what he is. And he's somebody that's not playing for you usually by that time.
But, Pete, talk about coaches having a lot of success. Ken Niumatalolo has had a tremendous amount of success there at the Naval Academy. Obviously, last year was certainly an aberration, to say the least. 3-10, but that was the first losing season in several years and only the second in a decade. So talk about the middies going into this season and obviously a win under their belt, 45-7 over Holy Cross, and now this game with East Carolina in the American opener with another open date coming up.
Yeah, I mean, last year, the league kind of hosed us on the schedule a little bit. We went to Hawaii and had to come back 6 days later and play Memphis. That was no fun. The schedule this year kind of worked out for us. I think the biggest thing, obviously with us, Ken has never really had the turnover on his staff that he had this year. He made a lot of changes on the defensive side, brought Brian Newberry and a bunch of guys up from Kennesaw State, and they've all, many of them had the background at Elon with Jay Bateman and those guys through there. So there's a lot of ties through the North Carolina area, and those guys have proven to be the goods. I mean, Kenny really wanted him, and really went to the wall as Brian, wanted to get the members of his staff on board there. And Kenny said, okay, I really want this guy, so I'm going to let him bring his people. So far through, I'll tell you what, you ask any of these Carolina coaches what they saw on tape from us against East Carolina is not what they've seen on tape from us over the last 20 years at the Naval Academy. There's no question it was a different feel defensively, and we're only scratching the surface with what Brian and his staff want to do as they learn the personnel more, because you can have spring ball and training camp all you want until you see guys in real games. You don't really know what they can do when the other team is game planning for you and stuff like that. So I think, we're cautiously optimistic and very excited about what lies ahead from the defensive side of the football. And, there's a reason why Coach Ken is the winningest coach in Naval Academy history. They don't have the back-to-back losing seasons. He hasn't had one of those. He recognized what he needed to do with the program, and he's implemented some things that he hopes will send it in a much better direction, because as we all know, guys, I mean, it just gets tougher and tougher week in and week out in the American Athletic Conference.
Now, are you guys running, what kind of defense are you guys running there? Is it a 3-2-5, a 4-2-5, or a multiple set, or what?
It's really, the thing that got me on Saturday was how multiple they were. You'll see 3 down linemen, you'll see 4, you'll see linebackers walk up to the line of scrimmage. So just the variations of the package so far, I think it's really too early with what they're doing now. Down at Kennesaw, for the most part, they ran, things out of a base 4-2, 4-2-5 type deal. But, as he learns his talent here, that may change here. And that was the one thing that kept us on our toes against Holy Cross, was just seeing the variations of what he did. And, quite frankly, it was pretty exciting to see some of the things that we did in that game against Holy Cross. But as we know, too, it's going to be a different animal coming up. I mean, East Carolina's have a little bit better talent level. So the stuff that you may have gotten away with against a FCS opponent, you're not going to get away with that in an American Athletic Conference game as well.
Pete, shifting to the offense, obviously it's been a few years now since the departure of Keenan Reynolds, obviously Malcolm Perry, and he's back at quarterback. He's a guy that's gone back and forth throughout his career from quarterback to slot back, and had a lot of success, particularly at slot back, but some at quarterback as well. And he had a strong first game, and the middies ran for 428 yards, even though they didn't have anybody run for 100 yards, which is very impressive.
Yeah, we had one of our slots, C.J. Williams, almost got to 100. Nelson Smith, our fullback, he almost got to 100. Had we been in a more competitive game, they probably would have gotten to 100, because they would have stayed in the game a little bit longer. Kenny pulled the plug on those guys fairly early in the second half, started getting a lot of other slot backs into the ball game. Isaac Russo, who's our new backup at the B-back position, got some snaps, and pretty much the entire fourth quarter, we alternated plays, all 3 of our backup quarterbacks. I mean, it was one play after another. They were literally shuttling the plays in with the quarterback. So a guy would take a snap, he'd come off, new guy would come on and take a snap. So the good thing is we got a lot of guys involved in the first game. I would say some modifications on some of our concepts, but it's still pretty much the same thing out of the triple option. The good thing for us was Malcolm Perry only carried the ball 10 times in the first game. And our quarterback has always been a guy, as you all know from playing us, our quarterbacks have always been a chief ball carriers. But at the same time, you mentioned Keenan Reynolds, and I think a lot of our fans, since, we had Keenan here, got spoiled in the fact that, they thought every quarterback should be like Keenan Reynolds. Keenan Reynolds was that 1 in a million guy who didn't need checks from the sideline. He knew how to get us in and out of every play. When the defense did one thing, he knew what to check to right away. He was that one special dude that had it, a little bit different. So I think the fact that maybe we've chased some ghosts a little bit trying to be like Keenan Reynolds, I think the coaches realized, wait a minute, we've got to let Malcolm Perry be Malcolm Perry. They put him back at quarterback. He's full-time quarterback. He's staying at quarterback. And I thought some of the things that he did, especially from a passing standpoint in game one, were very, very encouraging going forward, because as our coaches have realized, the way people are playing us now that they've seen us in the league a couple times, we've got to be able to throw the ball and back people off. If we don't, they're just going to sit up there and disrespect the fact that, we pass the ball and keep everybody in the box. And it's kept us contained on a lot of occasions last year.
And Malcolm Perry, and if he has a season where he runs for 650, 700 yards, he has an opportunity to become, I think, the 4th player in school history to top 3,000 yards.
Yeah, he's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and I don't doubt he's gonna bust out in some games. He's just too talented of a runner. But at the same time, with what you mentioned, if he only ends up around 700 or 800 yards, that means our other backs, in terms of the ball distribution as well, analytically, has been better. And that's a good sign for us, because when we're at our best, it's when the A's and the B's and the quarterback are all contributing, not necessarily equally, but it is distributed and spread out a little bit more. That was the great thing about the first game. We got plenty of activity with both the A's and the B's, and I know that was encouraging to coach from that standpoint.
Pete, coming off a bye week after week one and having that opening date in week two, and East Carolina's already played 2 games, do you think one's an advantage over the other? Do you think having a bye week after week one to kind of work on maybe some things that you saw that needed to be worked on before you play your next game is an advantage? Or do you think, you make your biggest improvements from week 1 to week 2 is what everybody says? Or do you think, East Carolina having 2 games under their belt already is a bigger advantage, or do you think it matters?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, at the Division I level, I'm not sure it matters a whole lot, but I think it matters here in this situation only because you got Mike and a new staff there at East Carolina. You got Kenny and his group making a lot of changes here. So having 2 games for Mike and his new staff, that's more experience. That's 4 more quarters of experience that those kids have doing what Mike and his staff are trying to ask them to do. Because we sit there and do it in dummy drills and whatever in practice. But until you play somebody for real and play 4 quarters at that intensity, you're not really executing fully what the coaches are asking you to do. So from Mike's staff, I think it helps no matter who you play in that second game, whether you're playing Alabama or whoever. So I thought from that standpoint, that gives Mike and his staff another opportunity to get stuff on tape, make some adjustments with their talent. And, from our standpoint, it gives our staff, a little bit more tape to look at, A, on East Carolina, and B, it gives our coaches a little bit more time to install something here, because they're installing on the fly, quite frankly, as well, because especially on the defensive side, because everything is so new to those guys. So from that standpoint, for us, it gives us a chance maybe to install a little bit more, having seen a little bit more of East Carolina with 2 games on tape now. So normally if it's just one staff, if both staffs are coming back, I don't think it really matters in that case. But I think in this case it does, just because you've got so much newness on each side of the football coming up here this week.
Coach Houston talked about in his post-game press conferences against Gardner-Webb Saturday night, looking ahead to Navy. He talked about when he was at Lenoir-Rhyne and at the Citadel, he studied so much game film from Navy because, they ran the triple option at Lenoir-Rhyne and at the Citadel. And he talked about how he studied this offense so much. and Coach Ken talked about that in his press conference today, how he knows that Coach Houston is very familiar with this offense. Talk about that.
Yeah, I don't care what you're running. Having watched a lot of Mike's games at James Madison, I think Mike is a rising star in this profession. So the fact that he has option knowledge, they're not going to have a chaotic fire drill on the other side like you all have seen at times when we have played you all. We have been able to do at times. We've been able to walk the dog 3 or 4 times before somebody came to make a tackle. That's not going to happen this week. I assure you that's not going to happen because, Mike is so familiar with this offense. They're going to be familiar with what they're looking at. They're going to have guys at least in the right place. It's going to come down to whether we block the people we're supposed to block or not, because East Carolina is going to be prepared. It's not going to be something, foreign to them and to their coaches, who we see at times just totally befuddled at what they're trying to defend. That's not going to be the case this week because, Mike has seen it. Mike has lived it. So he's going to have an idea of at least where to put people in terms of trying to defend it. And again, the question is going to be, can the 10 guys blocking in front of Malcolm Perry and our running backs all over the field, can they do their job in terms of blocking people? Because at least East Carolina is going to know where to line up. And we've seen people in the past who haven't even known where to line up. That's not going to be the case coming up on Saturday when you have a guy that has as much familiarity with it as Mike has.
Absolutely.
Now, Pete, East Carolina has a very solid place kicker and punter in Jake Verity and John Young. And I know with you guys, you have a freshman place kicker in Nichols, and then you have a senior punter in Owen White. So talk about those guys. And then I know Nichols made a 44-yarder on his only attempt against Holy Cross. And tell us, in addition to those guys, in terms of coverage units and return teams, what the middies present.
Yeah, Bijan's got a big leg, our freshman kicker. That 44-yarder, that thing would have been good from almost 60. He's been a real pleasant surprise. He won a tight battle. There were 4 guys in the battle for that spot, and really took over in a couple of the great drills that they did with time running down, and he boomed a 52-yarder, and that was enough for Coach. He won the battle there. Owen White's been a terrific punter for us. When we're at our best, he doesn't punt a lot. So we didn't see much from him in the opening game, but he's obviously got a terrific leg. Jacob Springer, who's one of our guys on defense, is normally our punt returner. I wouldn't expect much of a change there. And, quite frankly, in college football now, I don't know many people that get a kickoff return because everybody either fair catches it or the ball gets kicked through the end zone as it is. So that's always hard to tell because, nobody really gets any returns in the kickoff game much anymore at this point.
How's the weather going to be up there Saturday?
Right now, if you believe the meteorologist, and we usually have some pretty solid folks up here, 84 and sunshine for Saturday. It's going to rain on Friday, but Saturday's supposed to be pretty nice right now with 84 degrees.
All right, sounds good.
And Pete, something else I wanted to ask you for the Pirate Nation members who are coming up, and tell those fans who have not been to Annapolis before some of the things that they need to check out, be it there at the Naval Academy or unrelated to the Naval Academy.
Well, there's no question if you can get on the grounds of the Naval Academy, take a tour, walk around, just appreciate the history of the Naval Academy and what it has to offer. And more importantly, the city of Annapolis offers an awful lot, great time down by the city dock area. If there's a type of food you like, we got it, usually within walking distance. So plenty to do and more of it, you can do it on foot without, having to get in the car or Uber around a whole lot. But even if you have to, everything is so centrally located. A 5-minute Uber, that's not going to cost you a whole lot of money, and still gives you a chance to do a whole lot of stuff. But there's plenty of area down that city dock area to be centrally located, everything right down by the Naval Academy, where folks will definitely have a good time on Friday and Saturday night.
Sounds great, Pete. I'll tell you what, we're looking forward to your broadcast and our good friend Jeff Charles. And I was going to tell you, by the way, before we let you go, I wanted to let you know that I can't wait for you to see I know you're going to miss the double wide in the sky in Greenville at Dowdy Ficklin, but the new Town Bank Tower is amazing, and I can't wait for you to get the opportunity to call a game there when Navy comes to town again. I don't know when that'll be, but I can't wait for that to happen because
it'll be next year, Dave.
Yeah,
next year?
Hopefully, obviously with us splitting the divisions now, but I would think I would think, I got a sneaking suspicion because of the proximity. I'm hoping Navy and East Carolina is one of the two rivalries everybody's going to get. Everybody's going to get two rivals in the new scheduling formula. I'm hoping that us and East Carolina is one of those because I think it's a great game for both fan bases. And, we got a lot of kids from North Carolina, so it would be great for us because we get down into North Carolina with so many kids. And obviously it's a great game for East Carolina's fans to come on the road when it's up in Annapolis. So I'm hoping that going forward after they split up these divisions, that Navy ECU is one of the two rivals that we'll get in the league. I know that.
That'll be great. Pete, thank you so much, as always, for the time. We look forward to it and want to wish the Naval Academy a great season, obviously, and definitely love to have you back on. Hopefully we can have you back on before the Army-Navy game. You
got it. Anytime, guys. Always appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Pete. Appreciate him. I'll tell you what, he's so much fun, and but thanks to him too. Pirate Nation, if you want to know where to go in Annapolis, he just gave you some. He was definitely like the Chamber of Commerce there, and Mr. Chamber of Commerce to you. And I really enjoyed. He's just so much fun, and hopefully we can get him. Let's do Army and Navy again. Hopefully we can get him back on, and that would be a lot of fun. Certainly coming up, and it'll be a couple months, so 2.5 months or something like that.
Second weekend in December.
So looking forward to that. That's one of my highlights of my college football year for sure, outside of our East Carolina games. I just feel really good about this week. I know that I'll tell you one of the reasons why I feel good is that you guys, when we were talking about Mike Houston and we were talking about how bad the program, I used to, and we even with the podcast was fun to cover the team last year, but it had become like where it was just kind of like, I don't want to say ho-hum, but just kind of like you're kind of going through the motions. Yeah, I'm a Pirate fan. I support the program. Yeah, I'm going to the game. Yeah. And now it's back to where I'm really excited every week. I'm looking at every article I can look at. I'm looking at watching the coaches' shows, listen, and thank God for the radio show being back where we can call in if we want to. The Pirate Nation, the fans can talk to the coach. Just all kinds of little things like that that just have me excited again.
Yeah, it's funny. You kind of got to get in the habit of doing those things again. Some of them,
yeah.
like watching the Mike Houston TV show or listening to the coach's show. You got out of habit of doing that crap under Scotty Montgomery, and there was no need to listen to the coach's show. We weren't taking phone calls, and the TV show. Who wanted to watch highlights of games we lost? So you get out of the habit of doing something like that. You got to get back in. It's kind of strange. I have to remind myself to watch the TV show or the call-in show.
By the way, you can go to ecupirates.com. They have it there. And Bubba, you're Mr. YouTube, and thanks to you, I've gotten back in the habit of the
Forget
two
Mr.
web.
Beast. Bubba is Mr. YouTube.
He is, no doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt. Bubba's got me back, and YouTube is one of those. I don't know if you guys are this way, but I actually banned myself from YouTube for a long time because there's everything you could possibly imagine from old TV shows and the movies and.
I never understand that kind of stuff when people say they ban themselves from stuff they enjoy. I never quite get that. If you enjoy something, enjoy it.
I know, but what I'm saying is, when you have a life and you have a family and all kinds of commitments. And then all of a sudden you find yourself a few hours later, you're still watching that Led Zeppelin video or concert or whatever it is. You're like, yes, it was great, but I've got a whole bunch of stuff I need to do, you know?
Right, yeah.
And maybe, but anyway, I love YouTube, and thank you, Bubba, for getting me back into. I've been watching more YouTube because of, I know we've got a lot of great content up there. By the way, a shameless plug by me, but we do have a lot of great content thanks to Bubba. He works really hard on that's one thing that to get that, and we won't get too technical in the weeds, but it's YouTube is not something that's very, shall we say, user-friendly or what we've been able to find. I know he's been able to do, but he works really hard on that, and I want to give him a shout-out because we have, like, for example, people may not know a lot of our 50 for 50. We have a lot of different things up there. And if you get a chance, subscribe to our YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, definitely check that out. If you were not at Dowdy Ficklin last weekend and you have not seen the new entrance video, Enter the Pirate 2, as we refer to it. Curtis Feeman and John Medford at Port City Films did another fabulous job reworking last year's video and updating it. So check that out. It's already gotten probably right at 2,500 views. And then you also have the new No Quarter video, Pirate Walk video, and it seems like most folks, of course, love it when we sing Living on a Prayer. So there's a video of that as well.
And actually, the full name of the video is Enter the Pirates 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Well, for some reason the Pirates start breakdancing. I don't know what. Yeah, and by the way, I have to say something really fast. Somebody on, I don't know if it may have been ECU football, was talking about living on a prayer is tired. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me that living on a prayer is tired when there's some songs that we play at the football games?
All we do is win is tired. Quit playing that stupid, outdated crap.
Yeah.
Living on a Prayer is a classic. All you do is win. It's not a classic. It's just old and it's stupid. All we do is win. It's so stupid. Hate that crap. DJ Collie, you the best. I hear that. The people want to hear a rant. Here's a rant. That's so damn stupid and outdated. There's nothing. There's Celebration. When they play Celebration by Prince, that's a classic.
Cool in the game.
Cool. Well, whoever it's by is a classic. Yes, there's a party going on around here. I mean, but that damn all we do is win is so. I mean, God, come on. I brought it up to Ryan, and to his credit, it was tweeted about getting rid of it, but so many unoriginal ass clowns out there went, no, we got to keep it. We got to keep all we do is win.
But we don't win. That's the point. When we were playing it, we were winning.
Well, you know what? I don't care if we go undefeated. It still sucks. I suggested we play Pirate Town. I suggested at the end of the game we blare Purple Haze again, then go into Pirate Town. It would fit our motif as we are the Pirates. It would be original. It would be unique to East Carolina. But whatever.
Guys, kind of along those same lines, I know, Kyle, this is something you and I talked about off the air. I don't think we talked about it on a previous podcast, but last weekend during the band's pregame show for, I guess, going back to the Liberty Bowl days when we had won those back-to-back conference championships, we had said East Carolina, the home of champions, and then the home of undaunted champions a few years later, right? So last week, if people didn't catch it, I know, Kyle, you caught it, and Dave, I'm not sure about you because you were in the press box, and maybe we're a semi-late arrival due to some circumstances out of your control. But anyway, that pregame show, it said East Carolina, and then it replaced undaunted champions with loyal and bold.
Yeah, so I like that a lot.
So that sounded a lot better.
It did. Yeah. Undaunted champions sounded idiotic when we haven't won a championship outside of baseball in forever. And the undaunted thing was something Holland came up with. It was great for its time. And then Comfort didn't use it right, ran it into the ground, and I don't want to hear it anymore.
There you go. So it's daunted. Yeah, I think we've.
Hey, how about we go to Eric?
Can I say one thing? I want to say one more thing.
Okay, I will allow it.
Okay, because you guys, I think, referenced it, but can we please, and I'm not anti-nightclub because I used to work at a nightclub.
Oh, my God, yes. Thank you, Dave. Can we I actually commented on this on one of their posts. Quit. Look, nothing against the club there in town. What's it called? Still Life?
Yeah.
Nothing against them.
It's cool. It's a cool place.
I actually like their Facebook page. They post pictures of beautiful co-eds all the time. But would you stop with the dance mix? Nobody ain't fixing to dance. Could you just play some rock songs? Or if you want to play hip-hop or rap, that's fine. But play the actual song. Quit with the dance mix. Quit putting a dance beat on top of everything. Before long, they're going to put on some Kenny Rogers with a dance beat mixed in. I'm telling you.
It was so funny because the first one I noticed was 2 or 3 years ago when they started, was they took AC/DC. Was it Back in Black? I think it was Back in Black. But
Shook Me All Night Long, maybe.
No, it Shook Me All Night. That was it. You showed me all the same album, but different song. But they did that, and I'm like, that is a classic rock song.
Oh, they did it with something this week, Dave, that was just asinine. I can't remember what it was, but when I heard it, I was like, "Are you serious? Are you really mixing in a dance mix with this?" I wish I could remember what it was, but it made me want to throw up. I
vaguely, I don't recall which song it was, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this is nothing against the Still Life, and I'm sorry if we're insulting the DJ. But remember where you are, my friend. You're Daddy Ficklin. You ain't in the club. So think about your audience here. They ain't all 18-year-olds. There's homies there in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 80s even. So let's mix it up a little bit.
All right, I think now we can. I just had to throw that in there because it's been driving me nuts the last couple of years. Let's go now. I know, Bubba, we had a chance to talk to Big E, Eric Graham. And he's actually doing pregame and postgame for 94.3 The Game. Let's get his thoughts now on the big game against Navy this week.
We're doing our Pirate preview, and I tell you what, Bubba, nobody better to do the Pirate preview than a former player, one of our favorite guests.
Yeah, very excited to have former Pirate offensive lineman Eric Graham. Eric, welcome in the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We enjoy hearing you on 94.3 The Game for a pregame, postgame. You do it all.
Well, I try to. I love the Pirates, so being able to speak on it and share my opinion with everybody else, it's all fun, man. It's an honor to be able to do it.
I know that when we had you on last year for this nostalgia party we recorded, but certainly for Pirate fans that don't know, maybe that some of the younger ones, you actually came out of Richlands High School, and I know you were recruited by, was it Logan or Thompson?
Logan. I was recruited by Logan.
That's right. Okay. And I saw I saw that clip the other day on Facebook, one of my all-time favorites, where Logan said, we won on the last play from last week, and we go for it every time at East Carolina. I was laughing really hard.
You don't play at East Carolina. You don't coach at East Carolina. You don't come to East Carolina with a weak heart.
Yeah. And he storms, and he gets up and storms out. That was the coach that I had when I was at East Carolina, so he'll always be special. But we can talk about Logan for days. But can you talk about the time from the time you have been at East Carolina to now, and the changes that you've seen, or now that you're a big part of the program?
Well, I think going back then, which is 2002 is when I came in, doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it's almost 20 years just about. But back then, I feel like the players were a lot bigger. Doing Meet the Pirates a couple weeks back, it just didn't seem like we had much size on our team now. But I know the game has changed, so you don't need those guys. But the culture, the hard-nosed side of it, I feel like that's died down a little bit, and we're more of a finesse side. Which that's just how times change. Like, you go from being that physical, imposing, the first guy off the bus is supposed to be an intimidation factor. But it's not that anymore. It's more, let's get the ball out quick, let's catch it, make somebody miss, be really, really fast, go score, defense, let's get turnovers, fly around, stuff like that, where it's not really smash mouth anymore. But that's okay. I mean, times change. So I'm hoping we can get this thing turned around and start winning some more ball games. And, I would love to see Daddy Ficklin fill back up because the product on the field is doing so well. And I look forward to seeing where we go this Saturday and the rest of the season.
And you had an opportunity, we were talking about that before, you have a chance to play in Annapolis, the Naval Academy. Can you talk about your experience in 2006?
I hate talking about this story, but essentially, I got my butt whooped when we played up there by the defensive ends. I would honestly admit that. It was my first game of my senior year. Scouts and starting to get looked at by NFL teams. They're coming up in the pregame warm-up. They're taking measurements of you. They're writing down little notes. So I'm partly nervous. I'm not going to lie. Then I had my teammates who were just being jerks. Hey, man, that's the Dolphins. That's the Ravens. That's this, that's that. They knew it was getting underneath my skin, and they kept egging it on, the guys that weren't playing in the game as much. But Annapolis, it was one of the first games my parents actually traveled to watch me play. So it was a special game, and my dad being former military, I can understand why he would come up to Annapolis. The layout is a beautiful place. The intensity of the crowd is there throughout the first kickoff to when they leave the field, it's still intense the whole time. They're loud. And like you say, like I said on 94.3 the other day, is they'll hit you in the mouth and help you up and say good job and go to the next play because they're all great character men on the other team. You don't know if you should be talking junk to them, saying slick stuff like you would normally do any opponent, because these are the guys that are going to be protecting us in the future. They'll be officers and leaders of the military down the road. So it's just like, do you be disrespectful, talk junk, talk trash? You don't know, so you just play the game, you know. And it's not as intense as far as language back and forth as most games, but it's an atmosphere that everybody should be able to get up for, and it'll be fun. Hopefully, we'll compete throughout the whole game.
You know, I've often wondered about that, Eric. If you guys, when you're playing the Naval Academy, you know, if you do talk trash, you know, you use foul language, or if you show more respect, and I totally get showing more respect to those guys who are going to serve our country. But at the same time, I think about it, and I know lots of Marines, and I know this is the Navy, not the Marines, but those MFers love to talk trash and talk trash back to you.
Yeah, you know, I lived in Jacksonville for a while, so I understand the Marines and how they are. But the Naval Academy, they really didn't talk much junk. It was straight face, line up, set hut, give you everything I got, rotate, let my partner come in and do some more, and we're gonna help you up every time we tackle you. We're gonna, you know, and it's just it's actually a weird situation. Now it might have changed since then, but it's weird playing that game because you don't have that chatter.
I can almost see it being like reverse psychology, like it messes with you in a way where you're not as aggressive. It's kind of like if they were talking trash and you could talk trash back, it would almost make things easier. But you're trying to be aggressive. You know, Coach Houston's talked all week about matching their intensity and playing, and I think that's what he's talking about. Is those guys are going to come out there and give 100%, and our players are going to have to do the same thing without the added motivation of getting pissed off.
Oh, yeah,
I bet you those defensive linemen get pissed off when they get cut blocked.
Our guys definitely will get upset, but you know, I think the talent level at the academies, they don't necessarily match the talent level when you say the starters at a bigger school or a school where it's not military based. You have same talent 3 deep, first string, second string, third string, all at the same talent level, where we might have the best talent in the number ones, and then there's a drastic drop off to number 2. Well, they're going to give you the same talent every single snap, 100 miles per hour, and then rotate their guys around, and nobody's ever going to get tired.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, Eric, Kyle referenced the cut blocks, and obviously that's one of the big things when you're taking on the triple option flex bone offense like Navy presents. So take us back to 2006. Some of your buddies along the defensive line for the Pirates that year, what did they have to say about that?
But several of them were getting carved up. A couple of we got a few snapshots of the guys being flipped, and you know. And the thing is, it's like you want to play hard. Naturally, you cut me on one play. Now I'm mad, and I want to come back and hit you in the mouth, and then I fire off the ball, and you cut me again, and it looks worse than the first time, you know. So a lot of these guys, they come in. Most teams, they back off about a yard from the ball to try to eliminate the impact of the cut block, but it's just really about body technique and the strength of the lower extremities that allow you to get through that throughout the course of a game. Everybody's not cutting up front, and you got techniques where you can shoot your hands and keep them off of your legs. But the thing is, when you shoot your hands to keep them off of your legs, it's still slowing you down. So they might not get a clean cut block 80% of the time, but the fact that they're in the way, you got to step over them or go around them. Now you're 2 steps, 3 steps behind the ball carrier, and they're running down the field and you can't catch them.
And Eric, the point you make about lining up a little bit farther off the football, I remember in 2015 when the Pirates played in Annapolis, that was something we did that year.
Yeah, well, when you back up off the ball, it gives you a chance to see the play a little bit better. It gives you a chance to them not to be immediately into your frame. You don't want them to be in your frame down below your waist too much or too fast, really. And being able to back up a little bit, it gives you a better chance of seeing it. But there's always some give and take. So it's just like, I'm going to give you at least 1 yard every time you carry the ball. So in a 4th and 1 situation, more than likely we're not going to stop them because we're a yard off the ball anyway. But you want to get them in 3rd and long. That's kind of how you can get them off the field.
I remember, well, not I remember. This week I heard Coach Houston talk about practicing without a ball. And it seems like I'm trying to remembering back, listening to the call-in shows through the years, it was either Logan when we were playing Army or it was Skip when we played Navy in 06, also talked about practicing without a ball. Is that something you guys did when we played Navy in 06?
Yeah, you would do that because you want to keep guys disciplined on their keys on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
One guy has quarterback, one guy has pitchman, one guy has a support player, and you got to make sure that they go to those points no matter what. Naturally, when you want to make a play, you see the ball fly, you're going to get out of your lane. Here goes a simple fake. You jump out of your lane, they're going for 40, 50, 60 yards. So it's basically, I don't want you to follow the ball. I want you to follow your keys.
Yeah, one of our players, I hope he just misspoke yesterday, Bubba.
Yeah, that was the thing. I think he kind of just got a little nervous when he was speaking with the media, and because obviously I knew that the coaching staff was coaching him up on how to do it, and then funny enough, then Coach Houston said that in his post-practice remarks last night about practicing without a ball.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of those situations you get put in, you're not used to it. It makes you uncomfortable because there is no ball. But that's where the discipline part comes in. They're pushing discipline on top of following your keys. If you follow your keys, you'll manage to at least cause 1 to 2 fumbles. If you happen to get the fumbles, great. But if you get them to put the ball on the ground, that puts them behind the sticks. And it's going to happen. If you follow your keys, you're going to get an opportunity to cause turnovers. If you get out of your keys at any point in time, they are going to gas you. That is just what is going to happen. And that's what happens. They give you the same thing over and over and over. Wait for that simple leak. It's just like having a drip and water coming through it. Eventually, it's going to explode through that hole. And that's what's going to happen if we don't follow our keys.
I was looking at Navy's schedule from last year. A lot of them made about them having a similar record to us from last year. I believe they were 3-9. They may have been 2-10.
They were 3-10 because they had played. I think they had played Hawaii, so they played an extra game.
Yeah. But I looked at the scores of their games. They were nothing like us. They were 3-10, but they lost a whole lot of close games. So I think much has been made about I would expect them to be back this year and contending for a bowl game because you just go back. They lost so many games by a touchdown or less last year. They weren't a bad football team last year despite their record.
Well, let's hope they get back next week, not this week.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Guys, something else to talk about that's very important, and Donnie Kirkpatrick in his post-practice remarks on Wednesday, he was talking about how you kind of have to fight fire with fire, so to speak, as far as possessing the football and valuing making the most of your possessions. And then when you get in the red zone, you need to score touchdowns, not field goals. And the 2 games against Navy where we had the most success, that 5-point loss in 2006 and then the victory in 2011, that's what, in 2011 we were 6 out of 7 in the red zone. 5 of those scores were touchdowns. And then in 2006, we were 3 for 3 in the red zone with all of those scores touchdowns. So that's something that, and we were 8 out of 13 on third downs that year, and then 11 out of 17 in 2011. So hopefully our offense will be able to play with that type of consistency.
I hope so too. I know the fourth quarter in 2006 where we only had 1 possession, that makes a difference of a game. So you absolutely have to capitalize on red zone trips, or you have to. It's kind of crazy because it's like you don't want to have big gains and like long touchdowns because you're putting your defense right back out there on the field. You want 8 to 12 to 13 play drives to eat up some clock and to give your defense a chance to get back, fresh before they go back on to the next drive, because defense is going to have to play 100 miles per hour. One thing that really concerns me about Saturday's game is the depth. What is our depth on the defensive line? And how can we make that rotation work to where we keep fresh and talented guys on the field? It's almost like you want to take 2 starters and 2 backup guys and play those 4 at one time, and that way you always keep somebody really talented and somebody on the verge of becoming better on the field at all times versus having the best 4 and then bringing in your second best 4. It kind of makes me a little nervous because I don't know what our depth chart looks like just yet.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think if we do have a blatantly obvious weak point on the football team is our defensive line depth. So that's scary. But you mentioned about wanting to have long, sustained drives. if our offense is executing, that's kind of what we've been doing this year, is having long 8, 9, 10-play drives. So that's a good thing at least. Maybe that'll be a way to keep the defense fresh.
I hope so. I really hope so.
And as far as the fewer possessions, generally speaking, in a normal football game, you probably have at least 13, 14 possessions, and against Navy, you're more likely to have 9 or 10. I know going back and looking at our 6 games against them, it was anywhere from 9 to 12 possessions, and the one exception was that 2010 game, which you can throw out the window because they scored 76 points and were going 60 and 70 yards to the house. So of course we're going to have 15 possessions.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. If you have more than 10, it's because they've been scoring on you. And you don't really want that to happen. We really and truly on first down, you got to keep them at 2nd and 10. You want to get them back at 2nd and 10. You might can give up a little bit, 2 to 3 yards on 2nd down. And then 3rd down, you absolutely have to stop them. And you don't want them to get 4th and 3. Or you don't want 4th, 3, 2, and 1 because they're going to go for it.
Yeah,
especially if they're in the right part of the field.
Around midfield, well, if they get on anywhere near midfield, if it's less than 4th and 5, they're going for it.
Oh yeah, and that's disheartening as a team as a whole for the psyche. We're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds on the team. You're talking about. You normally get excited on 3rd down, and when you get them off the field on 3rd down, and you know it's 4th down, you got guys running off the field with the fist in the air and this, that, and another. No, you can't do that against Navy. You got to line back up and get ready to defend 4th down. And then when they get it, that next set of downs is just, you know what I'm saying? You're kind of like, man, what can we do? We got to do this all over again, you know. And it can wear and tear on a young mental. Like if their mental sharpness is not up to par. And the discipline part of it, guys, we will be 76 again. We will get 76 again. God. I hope not.
Now, do you think too much has been made of Coach Houston's background of running the triple option at the Citadel and at Lenore Ryan? Obviously, he ran it at both those schools with great success. So he knows what it looks like and what it's supposed to look like. So in theory, he should also know how to stop it. Or do you kind of what he indicated? He understands the offense, and Coach Trott understands the offense, but neither one of them is going to go out there and make a single play.
This is true. I believe that him knowing it gives us a better chance of coaching up the defense. But the one thing that a lot of people aren't talking about, how many games do we have this year, Bubba? We got 12?
Yeah.
Yep.
We're going to see this one time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So over the years, you might see, if you're there in the American Conference and you're there for 4 years, playing 4 years, you'll see it 4 times out of maybe 50-something games.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not something that you get used to. It's not something that you see often. Even in high school, so many teams that are coming from the bigger cities and the bigger areas, they're not running the wing T and the option offense. They're running spreads because that's what football has come to. So even when you do see it, you will have a Tarboro who can compete with a Charlotte school simply because the Charlotte school is not used to, their inside dives and pitching the ball and stuff like that. They're not used to it. And it transfers over to college, but you got a better athlete in college.
Now, what would you think? Me and Bubba had this conversation. Dave, you might have been on it too. What would you think, for whatever reason, let's say 2 years from now, Coach Houston, Donnie Kirkpatrick's offense just hasn't been successful for whatever reason. Let's hope not. And Coach Houston goes, you know what, I'm going to go back to what I know. And he decides he wants to run the triple option at East Carolina. What would your thoughts be on that?
I honestly think he wouldn't survive the job because our players are not set up for that. So he'll go right. We'll go backwards, and we might be finding another head coach because we don't have the players for that offense.
Right. No, I don't think he'll do that. But
I hope we don't. Let's go, Kurt. I believe in Coach Kirkpatrick and everything he got going on. So I'm really hoping we don't have to go to that. Maybe slide in a option every now and again from the gun and a spread look. Let the DN free and just pitch down there in the goal line, something like that. Yeah, I'm all for that. But to say our full-fledged offense is just that, I think we will lose recruiting. We will lose more games, and we're not going to be going forward. We're going backwards.
Yeah, I remember, guys, Bobby, you remember when Coach Logan was here with Gerard and he was running a lot of option out of the West Coast offense?
Yeah, that's why I know Coach Logan liked to do it because the way it forced defenses to play more man coverage, and and obviously Gerard was good at it as well. So
I think Holton would be good at doing something, just working in a little bit of that.
I could see that possibly happening, but I'm not a fan of it at all. I mean, me personally, I just believe that our guys up front are not set up to getting to that second level and cutting the linebacker. And with all the new cut rules and stuff like that they have implemented, I feel like it's going to make for a lot of penalties. If it's something that you haven't been doing, some things you're just not supposed to try. Like, I believe all of us on this call are, bright enough to know what is in our wheelhouse and what's not. And the option is not in our wheelhouse.
Right. So, in other words, it's good to have a package for Holton or have a specific athlete to come in and maybe run some plays like a wildcat or something like that, but not to go to the triple option itself.
Not a triple option. No.
He's saying we don't have the offensive line to run that kind of option. Not so much Holton. I think Holton could do it, but the line's not set up for it.
Yeah, like if you get a chance, Bubba, pull up rosters like at Georgia Tech or at Navy and look at the size of their offensive linemen. Nobody's over 6'4". Nobody's over 6'4", and nobody's over 300. Where we look at our cross, we're 6'5" and 6'6" and 295 to 315. It's not. We can't keep getting up off the ground like that.
Yeah.
And kind of another number that backs up what we were saying as far as Navy staying on schedule and how we obviously want to disrupt that. That's what Navy in 2015, they had 17 third downs they attempted to convert that day against us, and they converted 13 of them.
Disheartening. I'm telling you, that's rough.
But
it makes me wonder, did they score after they got those third down conversions?
Yeah, and also going back and looking at it, like you said, that was an excellent point. One that Kyle and I, like Kyle, I think mentioned, we had discussed their tendency to go for it on 4th and 3 or less, and in that 2015 game, because of all those third down conversions, they only had one 4th down attempt. But in the other games, I think there was something crazy, like 10 out of 11 on 4th down combined over 4 or 5 ball games because of all those 4th and shorts.
It'll win games for them, and I believe ideally we're going to have to score points. We really and truly need to score points, and that's going to give us our best shot, because if we're scoring, it's going to energize the defense and energize the team, keep everybody upbeat. So if we do give up 8, 10, 15, 20 yards on a carry, we're not getting dejected and just give up, and we continue to play and continue to fight. And it gives us that hope and that energy that we absolutely need throughout the whole course of the game. Because I don't believe that we have the group just yet to, no matter what, first, second, third, and fourth quarter, you're going to get the same effort, same energy. We have to manufacture some of that energy by how we're playing on each side of the ball and even special teams. So I believe we're going to be our biggest motivators by what we're producing on the field for the other side of the ball to feed off of.
And Eric, to your point, as far as the offensive line, I brought up Navy's depth chart, and currently they're starting 5, 6'4", 287, 6'3", 305, 6'2", 260 at center, 6'3", 287, and 6'3", 282. So just like you said, 6'2", 6'3", 85 pounds.
Yeah, that's just how it is. And that 305 guy is probably put together really well.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything else, Bubba?
Yeah, I was going to say just a little history about this game. So the Pirates, like we've mentioned, have taken on the Midshipmen 6 times, and we've lost 5 of those 6. The lone victory came in 2011 when we won 38-35. Navy missed the last-second field goal that would have forced overtime, but that was the game where Dominique Davis completed 26 consecutive passes, and going back to the previous week, he had completed 10 in a row against Memphis, so that was an NCAA record, 36 consecutive completions. So that was the thing that really stood out about that ball game.
Why don't we talk about Dominique Davis more? Nobody gives him praise.
That's a good question. I think it's probably because his 2 seasons when he played here, we went 6 and 7, and then
5 and 7.
5 and 7. So that's probably why. But he was a hell of a quarterback.
Oh, James Pinckney the same way. Like, a lot of guys don't understand. We don't stand a chance in most of our games. When I was playing, if it wasn't for James Pinckney, I mean, James doesn't get the love that he deserves either.
Man, James was a warrior. Good God Almighty.
I love him.
I think back to when I think of James Pinckney. Yeah, I like to think more of him from 05 and 06 when Skip got here. But I think back to the 04 game against Louisville, and oh my God, I felt bad for him. I mean, Jesus Christ. Were you? What years did you play here, Eric?
Yeah, I was here. I was here for that.
Oh, it was your fault. It was your fault.
You know what? I want you guys to get James Pinckney on your next show if you can, and I want you to ask him if it was my fault. And I think he has my back on this one. He has my back.
Ooh, good. I remember that game vividly. I was like, he's going to get killed. He's going to get killed.
They were playing freelance defense. Like, we were not the best 5 in the unit up front that year. Absolutely not. We had guys that were physically, body type wasn't made for those positions they were playing. We had guys that were kind of out of shape. I mean, as a unit, we really weren't where we needed to be to win, but we had to play with what we had because the depth issue was kind of similar to what we got going on back then. I mean, I know going into my senior year, there was 33 total starts out of the 5 up front, and over 20 of them were mine.
Wow.
So the depth issue is still there. So hopefully we can, over the next couple of years, 3 years or so, have every piece that we need and have a 2 deep and a potential 3 deep in some positions across the whole team. We need it.
Yeah. You talk about James Pinckney. It makes me just think about the 06 season and get off subject just for a minute. But what was your favorite memory of that 06 season? Because that, to me, was kind of the 05 laid the foundation, but 06 was kind of, went to a bowl game. Was it the NC State win or the win against UVA or maybe the win on the road against Southern Miss? Do you have a favorite game from the 06 season?
Favorite game, I would say probably it has to be Memphis or UVA would be my favorite victories.
Yeah. Come back against Memphis. Yeah, that was good too.
Casey Ross got the interception, returned it for a touchdown. The crowd erupted. It was probably one of the loudest events in Dowdy Ficklin that I ever witnessed. Like, a lot of times you don't hear the crowd on the field at home, but when K. Ross got that pick and returned it for a touchdown, it was insane in there. Yeah,
it was just so frustrating because, we had played well against Navy, on the scoreboard, but lost. Then against UAB, you had
we had the fumble down on the one.
Yeah. And so then we get down big against Memphis, and you're thinking, my God. And then that comeback in the second half was just such a relief, not only for the team but for the fans too.
And I think that showed the growth that we had made because before, to start off 0-2, and to still compete going into that third week, I know that week, I remember vividly, Coach called out the upperclassmen and the captains about why are we not producing, why we're not doing things that we are supposed to be doing and doing them how we taught in camp. What's the issue? Got called out, and we kind of picked it up and turned it around to make that season a successful season or the first successful season in a while. It wasn't what we wanted to be because we very well should have played for the conference championship, but we had a lucky catch by Rice down there in Houston, and they were able to kick the field goal to take the victory. Where we would have been going into the conference championship game. But, you win some, you lose some, but you learn from it all.
Something else this week, guys, and we talked about this earlier off the air, and that is we're trying to win a road game in the American for the first time in 8 tries. We've lost 7 in a row and 11 of the last 12. The only road win was against UConn in 2017. Prior to that, you have to go way back to November of 2015 and Coach Ruff's final season when we beat UCF 44-7 down in Orlando when they were winless.
Yeah, that's a hard stat to swallow. I was thinking, Bubba, the other day, another one that's even worse than that. We got to go all the way back to 2014 to get our last non-conference road win, which we'll be going for at Old Dominion in a couple of weeks.
I hope we break those streaks over the next 2 weeks. And definitely, I mean, we need it. I think winning on the road, like I said, we are producing our own energy We're not having to rely on fans in the stands and hype and media and videos and highlight tapes and all of that. We're not having to rely on that. If we can produce our own energy and motivation amongst the players themselves, if they can do that, we'll have something special this year.
And Eric, I was going to mention, since you've been in the similar situation with a coach coming in like Holtz to rebuild, was there a certain game that you feel like that you felt like the program had turned the corner, like there at the end of your career?
A certain game felt like we turned the corner.
In other words, where you say, hey, this, like Coach Holtz has got us on the right track?
Well, you know what? I love giving coaches praises, but I honestly think it was the leadership of the players.
Okay.
I'm not taking it away from coaches putting us in the right position, but it's the same people that Coach Logan had in 2002
right.
that were there for 3 and 4 with Thompson and 4 and 5. And then the crazy thing is, I believe Coach Holtz benefited from Thompson's 2003 recruiting class. 2004 recruiting class. He ended up benefiting. It's kind of one of those Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr situations, you know? And I believe it was more the leadership role of the upperclassmen was different because my class was the start of the losing. So when we went 4 and 8 and lost to Cincinnati and Coach Logan got fired, that group of freshmen were the group that finished up in 06 that helped build the mentality of the guys that graduated in 07 and 08 and 09. You know what I'm saying? So we produced leaders that showed the way, so then we only got better as we went. I can remember as a senior, Jay Ross and Scotty Robinson, C.J. Wilson, they would always want to get extra work after practice with the upperclassmen. The other guys would leave, but the upperclassmen always stayed, and that became a thing. But then when you sit back and look at the strength of our back-to-back conference championships was what? The defensive line.
Yeah.
That group of guys stayed working with the offensive linemen, the upperclassmen offensive linemen, and by the time they became seniors, I'm going to be honest with you, our offensive line in practice couldn't block that group. So they can only be, as Coach Shank told me a long time ago, you're a victim of what you practice against. We got better in the run game because we were blocking an awesome defensive line in practice. So then you have Chris Johnson erupt. You know, then you have the next backs erupt and still do well those next couple of years because we were facing the best D-line in the conference.
We got to do that. We'll have to do that with several teams this year. Do you? What are your expectations as far as Coach Houston this year? Yeah, I'm good. Coach Houston, what do you think about? In other words, where would you be satisfied with, like, win totals? I know it's hard to say. We're saying between the three guys, we go range from 5 to 7 wins. I'm saying 7 and 5, but what would be that you're saying? Okay, things are better. Obviously, more than 3 wins, right?
I'm going to be honest with you, just finishing the game. Finishing the game with effort will show me that we are different. And then at the end of the day, I would say between 5 and 7 wins could be realistic. But it's college football. The other teams want to win too. You don't know what version of a teenager or a young adult male is going to come to the game. So I can't necessarily put it all on the coaches because, like you say, they don't play any snaps. The players are going to want to have to get those wins, and they're going to have to earn them. And I'm going to stick between – I'm just going to play it safe and say 6 wins is realistic for us, and that's what I would love for us to get to. Anything better than that is just going to take us to utopia. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. 6 wins to me would be fantastic. And my prediction's 5 and 7. Quite honestly, after the last few seasons of 3 and 9, I'll be happy with 5 and 7 and feel like we're heading in the right direction, kind of like Skip's first year.
Oh, yeah, we can make it happen.
No doubt about it. Big E, I tell you what, it's going to be great. And I want to remind folks they can hear you this weekend on Saturday, right, before the big game against Navy.
Oh, yeah, the No Quarter post-game show on 94.3.
You like that
we'll
name?
Be there. I love the name. We'll be there after the game, and also the pregame show will be Patrick Johnson and Terrence Copper. And occasionally I'll stop in over the course of the year and do the pregame show with them. But tune in, listen up, 94.3 The Game.
You know, I hear a pretty smart guy came up with the name of that show.
Yes, please stroke his ego, Eric. We'll have to hear about it for weeks. Stroke his ego, please.
I'm not mad at him. Sometimes you got to take your own credit. You pat yourself on the back. Pat yourself on the back.
If you don't give yourself credit, ain't nobody else going to.
Exactly.
Toot your own horn, Kyle. Please toot your own horn.
Toot, baby.
Well, Eric, man, appreciate you so much. I just looked down and you've been more than generous with your time, and I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. So excited to hear you. Enjoy listening to you on 94.3 The Game, and let's pray that somehow, some way, maybe the stars will align and we can find a way to beat Navy. That'll be awesome.
That'd be wonderful. That'd be great. You know, and like I said, guys, get James Pinkney on here. The people need to hear where James Pinkney's at and what he's got going on.
That's a good idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, look this up. We'll definitely do it.
Oh, yeah. I've reached out to JP, and that's what he said he'd be willing to come on for sure, so we just got to get it lined up.
All right. If I can help, let me know.
All right, man.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you on Saturday afternoon.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Eric, very much. Boy, I enjoyed him. He's absolutely fabulous and one of the Pirate greats. And not only is
that's how I always describe Eric Graham as fabulous.
Fabulous?
Yeah.
He's just being fabulous, like the Eagles song.
Fabulous Eric Graham.
He is. He is fabulous.
He's fabulous.
Anyway, he's cool, and
no, he's very knowledgeable. Actually, I think in terms of, and this is no insult to anyone we've had on, but in terms of breaking things down, I think he does it as well as anybody we've had on the podcast.
Even more than Kyle from LaGrange?
Well, anybody we've had on the podcast.
You're saying not you. No. How could I insult you that way?
Incorrect. No, he's good. He's good. He breaks down things really well, and I really enjoyed listening to him his analysis of things.
I think what I'm going to do is every time Kyle talks, I'm going to put a Still Life dance beat underneath you, and so it'll be that'll make it sound so much better for Kyle. Like we have to enhance Kyle's his commentary with it.
You might.
We're going to take Living on a Prayer. We'll put a dance beat on it.
That'll be next.
Dance beat with Outlaw Country.
Oh man!
No.
This is going to be next, guys. This is going to be next as you hear down 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 down.
Oh God!
Down 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 down. They're gonna put a dance beat in the middle of Purple Haze as the guys are entering the field.
Oh my God, we're going to definitely have to, maybe instead of predictions for the game, we can actually start predicting Still Life. What is going to be the song that they're going to?
And again, I want to be clear. We have nothing against Still Life.
No, not at all.
Again, love your Facebook page. Just Mr. DJ. But, Charlie Daniels fan, Mr. DJ. I'm sure you know that song, Dave.
Yeah, I do. Hey, Mr. DJ.
Hey, Mr. DJ, could you please just not play every song with the dance beat mixed in?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were, and there's some songs that maybe that I would say this. There's some songs, in fairness to them too, because I am a DJ, that work, and then there's some that are obvious that don't work, and they're trying so hard to take the, like you're saying earlier, you were talking about it, taking the 20-somethings, 18 to 22-year-olds, and they put in the dance beat with something that was from 1980, like Back in Black or You Shouldn't Be All Night Long. It just doesn't work, in my opinion.
Right. No, I agree with you. And like, when we were leaving the stadium the other night, they played Celebration, and after Celebration, they were playing Chicken Fried by Zach Brown. I was like, well, why can't we get something like that during the game? I mean, let's get something like, that appeals to.
Yeah. You have to remember, it's kind of like when you DJ a wedding, you've got people that are really young up to it's the same concept, even though it's 34,000, like we had in different.
But you know what, you say that, Dave, but it's funny. I think of Brendan Shapiro, our newest member of the Sports Objective team. Who, we were talking about who we listen to. Me and him have very similar taste in music, and I'm at 38 and he's 22. And he mentioned Tyler Childress, and then oddly enough, our punter,
John Young
said his favorite artist right now is Tyler Childress. So, those are two dudes in their 20s, and they're listening to the same stuff I am.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just one of those things, and that's what's fantastic about music too. Is there are people that listen to current stuff, and then you listen, like my children. They actually, you know who they're big on right now?
Milli Vanilli.
Michael Jackson. They want to hear everything Michael Jackson right now.
He would love the fact that your children love him.
What's that?
He would love the fact that your children love him.
I'm not touching that one. This is a family show, but he's already dead anyway. I don't have to worry about him. But anyway, that was it's interesting though when we were talking about the still life. You know, that tells me that the things are better when you start talking about uniforms. You're talking about the music at the stadium. When your team is losing, then you really don't care about anything, including that stuff.
No, you're right. Really that's a good point. That's a good point. That the bitching about the still life music, or bitching about concession stands, or whatever. The reason we're doing that this week is because there's not a game to complain about. We got to win. We won in convincing fashion. We did what we were supposed to do. So you have other things that you can complain about. Had we went out there and lost to Gardner-Webb, guess what? They wouldn't be getting any complaints about anything because of concession stand.
That's true. That's true. And hey, I will say this too, Kyle. You remember last year, the games were so bad that you didn't have to wait at all. The lines were not even.
No, that's
bad.
true. Hey, good point. Good point.
I remember you got your $40 Gatorades or Powerades rather.
That's right. Whereas this week you had a situation where we were winning big, so people were eating stuff and trying to, the more reasonable concession stand prices out, so. Did you guys hear, by the way, how did the alcohol sales as far as the lines, was that smooth or was it just concession stands itself? I didn't buy any alcohol. I can tell you.
I haven't heard anything. So.
My second trip to the concession stand, it was in the, first or second quarter, because I went to the concession stand as soon as I got there 2 hours before kickoff. And then in the first or second quarter, we went back down, and it was dreadful. It took forever. We were getting, some drinks and a pretzel, and I bet you we waited down there. I'll tell you what, I went down when we were Gardner-Webb just got the ball, and we were up 10-0 or 10-7, whatever the score. No, 10-0, and we scored a touchdown to make it 17-7 or whatever it was at that point, and I missed that entire drive plus some more of the next drive.
I have one question I want to ask you guys too. That bothers me. Is it me or is it a safety issue? Or maybe y'all can help me out on this. Maybe I'm behind the times. I've been wanting to mention this. I don't think I have on the podcast. But when I'm at a football game, why don't they have people selling stuff? I used to walk up and down the aisles and selling drinks, and you'll occasionally see somebody maybe here and there, but it used to be a lot of people selling all different kinds of stuff. And now that is that like a lost art? Is it a policy that came up?
The only thing I can think of besides the safety issue is, probably back in the 90s and even the early 2000s, I'm trying to remember, did we have as many concession choices? That's the only thing I can think of is if back then the concession choices were a lot more limited than going around and selling things.
Because I think you could actually help the lines if you know that I'm not going to go downstairs if I know that there's a dude coming up with, Powerade or water coming up pretty soon.
Right. I don't know. The only thing I can think of is we're selling a lot more items now, so they want to get people to the stands.
Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say you see it, but it's not definitely not nearly as frequently as or nearly as frequent, as it was back then. Because like you said, I remember that well from the 90s and even on up into the 2000s. Not all that long ago, but. Let's see, there's something else I was going to bring up along those lines, but maybe I'll think of it in a minute. You guys can go ahead.
Bubba, you have anything else? Do you have something you want to complain about? I know that I've done a good job of complaining tonight, but
I know what it was. You were talking about as far as the beer and wine sales. I know I heard Jonathan Ellerby and Clip Brock talking about it on the sports bar on Pirate Radio.
On Monday.
Yeah, on Monday. And Ellerby said in his experience, he thought it was reasonable. He was doing it right before opening kickoff, and he said was a fairly lengthy line, and it took him about 5 minutes. So, I mean, he thought it was good.
That's good.
Good from his perspective.
Oh,
and maybe that was the problem. Maybe they spent too much time worried about beer lines and didn't focus enough on concession lines.
That's true. I was going to ask you about, you read my mind, Kyle. I was going to ask you about that a little bit ago, about that we put so much on being it was the first game to sell. And another thing, too, I'm really happy. I didn't hear of any. That was one of the complaints I heard from the people that didn't want it, is there was going to be a whole bunch of fights and people passing out drunk. And I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. I really didn't. I didn't see any fights, and I don't know of any. And I didn't see anything where people were just drinking so much that they passed out.
No, that's not going to happen. That's going to happen more from binge drinking in the parking lot on
right.
hard liquor. You know, and these beers are still $5 and what, $7 or $8
right.
a piece, whatever. And it ain't like they're, you know,
Thirsty
it ain't like
Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. So
Thirsty Saturday.
I don't. Hey, that's an idea for that Temple game, that you do a Thursday promotion.
Well, why don't they have a? You could get if you do that, what you do is just get a much smaller cup for $1, right?
Sure.
If you want to do that.
I don't know. Beer. Okay.
That's usually what they did. Is back in the day they would have like smaller cups, and it'd be like Busch Light or something for 99 cents, Thirsty Thursday or something.
Oh man, no, thank you.
There you go. It's for you. What else you guys got before we go? We've had a good podcast.
That's it, Dave. Bubba, what do you got?
Yeah, briefly. That's something we haven't mentioned. Gardner Minshew, what a job he did coming in. Coming in for the Jags. So he had a heck of a game, 22 out of 25 for like 275. So that's just crazy. Just crazy how things work out.
Bench him.
Yeah.
Beat him for leaving.
But I just wanted to throw that out there, and then
no pun intended.
I guess no pun intended. And the last thing is just, do we want to give our predictions before we get out of here?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. That was one of the things before we close. I wanted to mention about our wonderful game we'll have every week, right, guys, on Facebook, the college football pick'em.
Yeah. By the time this gets released, I don't know if we may have taken it down. We're going to take it down 12 o'clock Friday because the UNC Wake Forest game is Friday night. But yeah, if it's not down yet, go up there and do your picks. I think maybe next week we're going to go back to predict the score. It seemed to get a much better reaction and participation from the fans. But this week right now, if it's still up when this gets out, go pick the 5 games and then
if
put
it's Friday morning when you're listening to this, then you'll have a chance. If it's lunchtime beyond, you will have a chance to participate.
Correct.
So the deadline is high noon, Friday lunchtime. So, and do you want to go through, Bubba? Do you want to mention the games and we'll give our predictions?
Yeah. So that's obviously the first game that we'll talk about. Is the Pirates and Navy, so we'll start there. And
we're gonna give our prediction for all 5 games.
Yeah, let's do it quickly. Yeah, we can do it.
Okay, well then let's close with the Pirates and Navy.
We'll start off then with the first game of the contest, like Kyle said, and the Tar Heels traveling to Winston-Salem to take on Dave Clawson and the Demon Deacons tomorrow night, and so who do you guys like in that one?
I'm going to go on a limb here, and most people, I anti-Mac Brown, but I'm going to go with Dave Clawson. I think that it's in Winston-Salem, Wake Forest, and I'm just not 100% sold on this UNC team. I think the South Carolina game and the Miami game, those are nice wins, not taken away from them, but I don't think this is a team that's going to win 10, 12 games. Obviously, I think that they have a shot at a bowl. So I'm going to go with the Wake Forest Demon Deacons.
Well, I am anti-Mac Brown. Screw that guy. And I'm taking Wake just basically because I want them to win.
And as much as I want Wake to win, I think I'm going to take North Carolina to win a close ball game.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. I hope that's not true, but I'll take North Carolina to win a close game.
All right. What we have next?
I bet I just pissed a bunch of our Tar Heel fans off listening to this.
Yeah. Well, we actually do have a number of Tar Heel fans that listen because of
Oh,
us.
I know. Some of them disguise themselves as Pirates.
Whoa, nice.
Another game and the next game we'll take a look at is NC State at West Virginia.
NC State, West Virginia.
Yeah. Hot garbage.
Well, offensively anyway, they Neil Brown's a good coach. It's going to take some time. I'm really kind of surprised. Similar offensive strategies to what they were running, really. But they haven't looked good. It wouldn't surprise me if if West Virginia won that game. But defense typically travels, and West Virginia's offense hasn't been good. So give me the Wolfpack. And I hate the Wolfpack too, just so everybody knows.
As much as I hate it too, Kyle, in normal years I would pick West Virginia. I think that Dana Holgorsen was smart to go to Houston because he knew that there was not much left in the cupboard there, in my opinion, in Morgantown. But I'm going to go with the Wolfpack.
He was doing the recruiting, Dave.
I know that, but I get that, but I think he was going to be on the hot seat this year big time, and he was smart to get out.
Oh, he was, yes. No, I agree, but I'd be a little worried maybe if I was Houston down the road.
And
good point.
I'm going to take NC State as well. Obviously, Wolfpack are 2-0, and then you have West Virginia, who's looking for their first win, as they are 0-2. Excuse me, sorry. Well, I know 1-1. They beat James Madison 20-13, but it probably felt like a loss. But they did beat
Evidently,
Madison.
it felt like a loss to you.
Yeah, apparently it did. And I had brain freeze.
Made a mistake.
Brain freeze here at 20 to midnight. But anyway,
put down the slushy.
Yeah. But yeah, I certainly like Dave Dorn and the Wolfpack to win that one. Next game we'll take a look at is Iowa traveling to Ames to take on Iowa State and the Cyclones.
That's a tough one.
It's a rivalry game.
Yeah, it's evenly matched. You say it's at Iowa State?
Yes, it is at Iowa State.
Man, that's a tough one.
I'm going to take Iowa State just because it's at Iowa State, but that could go either way.
All right, I'm going to be different. I agree with you, Kyle. That's a coin flip of a game, and I normally would go that route of wherever the game's being played, if it's that tight, home field advantage, if you will. But I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the Cyclones. I think Iowa's going to win it.
You're going to go with the Cyclones when you're going to pick Iowa?
I'm sorry, God Almighty. I'm going with the Hawkeyes. I'll skip there. It is late at night.
And I am going to take the Hawkeyes in a close one as well. This is a game that Iowa State has struggled in, and I think Iowa will find a way to get it done on the road. Next, let's take a look at Stanford and UCF. This one's, of course, being played down in Orlando at Bright House Network Stadium. And then, so who do you guys like in this one?
UCF's got something to prove. They're going to – I hope they don't put too much into this game and try to prove too much and just go out there and win the damn thing. Don't worry about winning it. That'll prove a lot right there. But I think UCF gets it done.
Wow. My heart versus my head. That's what I'm going. My heart would say because I love the American, I want UCF to win, but I love David Shaw. I'm going with Stanford.
And I will take UCF with it being in Orlando, and I just kind of like Terry Gallagher said on the podcast last week is as good as UCF has been the last couple seasons. I really think the Knights are certainly a candidate to run the table again. That's never easy, but I would not be surprised at all if they do so. And I said Bright House Network Stadium is actually Spectrum Stadium now in this day and age of corporate sponsorship.
Yep. And finally, you have our East Carolina Pirates traveling to Annapolis, Maryland to take on the Midshipmen.
I'll go first. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I will go. I'll say Pirates 24, Navy 17.
All right, that would be nice.
I'm not saying it's going to be obviously, I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way.
I'm going to go along the same line. I'm going to go along the same lines, but unfortunately, I think we come up short. I'm going to say Navy 31, East Carolina 23.
All right.
And I wish I was as confident as you guys are, especially you, Dave, in terms of holding Navy to 17 points. I do think there's a chance we could win, even if we didn't hold them to that fewer points. But as hopeful as I am, I got to take the Midshipmen. Hope and pray I'm wrong. I will say Navy 38. Let's go East Carolina 24.
Okay, so that's 2 touchdowns. All right, considering, I will say this, it sounds like a moral victory, but considering how bad we played against them most of the time, that would be a huge win for us, knowing that we're rebuilding the program. All right, so we got the predictions in, folks. If you're listening on Friday morning, make sure that you get your picks in by noon. If it's after Friday at lunchtime, then it's too late and you'll have to get ready for the following week and look at the matchups there as well. All right, so you guys got any final thoughts before we go?
No, just hopefully we'll have a good showing in Maryland this weekend.
All right, Bubba.
No final thoughts. And go Pirates. Find a way to sink Navy.
Sounds good to me. As much as we love Pete Medhurst, we'll have to disagree on who we want to win for sure. All right, the winners, Kyle from LaGrange Barber, and of course Bubba Rosenbaum. Thanks to our great guests Pete Medhurst and Eric Graham. I'm Dave Richmond for the Sports Objective Podcast.
You've been listening to the Sports Objective Podcast. Join us next time as the guys will be objective, and the objective is sports.